There it is. That piece is what's inspiring me to make the, I'm going to call it a display rack for the MWA banner we're going to be displaying at our booths at the Woodworking in America conferences this year, being 2012. I was actually, this past weekend, moving the pile of lumber that Carrie Holton was generous enough to give me since I removed it from her mouse-infested garage and got it off her hands. Apparently it was just taking up space. So as I was moving it, this one piece caught my eye, and I thought it would make a beautiful upright for the banner rack. And what I'm going to do in making the banner rack is incorporate a few different styles of design, just as Modern Woodworkers Association incorporates a lot of different woodworkers of all different types. I felt that the rack should incorporate different styles to kind of be a metaphor for the MWA. So here's the initial piece. And what I've done so far is I've simply sanded this face. This was rough sawn when I started. I've sanded it with 36 grit and 50 grit and 80 grit on various random orbit sanders and Rotexes, and it's actually pretty smooth now. I'm not going to say it's flat, and I don't think I'm going to go for flat. I'm just going to go for smooth. And you can see up at the top there was a crack there, and I've epoxied that because I didn't want it to keep splitting. And that's where I am so far. This tape here is to seal other cracks, and this lighting is going to be terrible, but no, you can't see any of that. Anyway, right here, it's hard to make out. There's more epoxy in the back. The back has lots of epoxy in it because it was a kind of a piece was a little worse for wear, but we're going to make it work. So this is where we're starting with. I haven't gotten beyond this particular piece in the design. This is going to be the left arm because you've got this upper section here, and I thought that the top piece can come out this way, and then we'll have a right arm and probably a base piece also. And I think the two horizontal members are going to incorporate a style, probably green and green, but I'm not sure. And then the vertical piece over here is going to be a style. I'm thinking of making it probably just modern, using like birch ply or maybe even some timber strand, rounded edges and very sand and beautiful finish on it, but man-made material to kind of run the gamut of different woodworking. But anyway, that's all kind of being decided. I just had this beautiful piece of lumber in front of me, and I felt compelled to start working on it. So I'm getting way ahead of myself, and I'm just taking what I'm working on and putting it aside. But I've been renovating the shop now for months and months, and I'm getting a little fatigued of it. I need to just put the wall together and move on. I got, more timber strand for the walls taking up space here, and my OSB sheathing, and anyway, I need to get back to that. But for now, this is a bit more rewarding. So I'm going to start working on sanding that top surface that's got the epoxy in it and see what I can make that look like. I'm starting the sanding with this old rigid dual mode 6-inch random orbit I have. And I've got a 36 grit pad on it. I don't know if you can tell, I actually had to cut those holes myself because it wasn't easily available to find 36 grit in a big box store that fit it. But it's a 36 grit Velcro backed pad, and I just cut the holes, and she sucks pretty well. It is connected up to the dust extractor, but luckily the Festool hose and this is a rigid hose. The rigid hose and the Festool hose both takes a 3.5 inch standard plug right there, so there's no issue switching hoses out, and a couple of adapters because of course the rigid sander doesn't fit the rigid hose, but we'll make that work. And now we're going to start sanding away this epoxy, see what we end up with. So now here we are, and I'm sorry if in these videos I've switched aspect ratios. I think I have, but anyway, we're moving on. Here we are. I've sanded it down with that 36 grit, and it's coarse, but it's all flat. And you just see the little bit of epoxy still in the crack. It was a nice big void, so I didn't go crazy here with the crack, but up here should be fine. So now I'm going to hit it with a 60 grit pad in the Rotex mode, and that'll bring it even with the rest, which I've only, no, you know what, I took the rest to 80, so maybe I'll take it to 82, but now we're going to hit it with 60 grit in the Rotex. Now we finished with the 60 grit on the Rotex, and we're going to 80 grit on a 6-inch random orbit. This is the 5mm stroke one. It's the one with the bigger stroke, so a little bit more aggressive. And you can see there, it's starting to get nice and smooth. It is perfectly flush, and it's going to end up being pretty nice. So now I'm just going to hit it with the 80 grit, blend it in with the rest that's already been done to 80 grit, and then we'll call this side done and worry about all the epoxy on the back. And there we have it. The 80 grit, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time with these grits. The 80 grit is done. A couple little pockets there, like air holes, but I don't think I'm going to fill this in. I might change my mind, but it kind of matches the pot marked look of the rest of the log in the adjoining area, so I'm not overly concerned about it. I'm going to go for a natural look, and even if it's the natural deficiencies in the epoxy, I'm going to call that natural because I don't really care. That's the way I roll. So that's what it's going to be.